Hey everyone, I am T-Rex, and I know that recently I have been doing more reviews that relate more to film and television. I'm trying to get through a video game, and I'm close to being able to finish that and do a review for it. But right now I love reviewing films and video games, but if you guys have an opinion on which one you would like me to lean more towards, I am open to that. Right now I'm just doing film because it's a little easier to do. Also, I have a busier schedule now. It's just easier to watch more films than to play a full video game for the first time. If there's any backlog video games I've played that I might want to review, I might do those. But I will definitely be reviewing more video games. I'm almost done with one, so I can be able to review that. So since that little ramble is over, today I'm going to be talking about another Ridley Scott film, since I'm on a little bit of a Ridley Scott binge. But let's talk about one of his most iconic films, Alien. This is my non-spoiler review, and let's get started. Alien is a science fiction horror movie directed by Ridley Scott and was released back in 1979. Now, let me just say, I was expecting for this movie to be a fun, sci-fi sort of fun movie. It was a little creepy. I knew that it was a horror movie going in, but I wasn't expecting it to be that scary since it came out in the late 70s. Now, let me say, I was pretty wrong about that, but let's just start with the narrative. So this is about a crew that receives a distress signal, and they go and investigate it. Now, so the narrative is actually pretty simple with a very simple premise. Now, I liked it, but I thought that it felt a little too simple at times on my first time watching. But towards the end, they changed some things up that kind of backtracked towards the beginning of the film, and I think that was really good. I really liked that idea that they did. I think that really helps the simplicity of the story. Now, also, this story would not be as good as it is without the fantastic direction from Ridley Scott. This film, just like Blade Runner, feels so ahead of its time. It still looks amazing. And also, probably a good time to talk about the setting, which he really did well, because this is a very simple film. It needs a great setting, and the setting is mostly on this spaceship, and the way that Ridley Scott is able to make these places still feel interesting and alive is absolutely amazing. Also, a place never really overstays its welcome because the pacing is actually rather brisk. It is under 2 hours, just a bit, but the movie really moves along at a great pace. This makes whenever they go or wherever they go feel fresh. The story is pretty good, but with fantastic sets and one of the best atmospheres I've ever had in a film and great direction. This really led to Alien's overall feeling and narrative structure feel very strong because of the sets, the pacing, and the overall direction really helped that narrative, which maybe wasn't as strong, but together it felt like a very strong, cohesive idea of where they were and where the story was going. Now, a movie like this also really relies on its characters, since the story is very sort of claustrophobic, and I said that the narrative wasn't as strong. It's much more of a character movie, and now this movie has these characters that are not your average horror characters, because usually in movies, it's people that are really good friends, and they know each other, and really stupid decisions lead to the downfall. But in this movie, I think the screenplay and the people who wrote it did a great job in making these characters kind of not like each other. And every scene that they are in together feels like they're just trying to coexist without strangling each other. This leads to them having very interesting situations when they realize they have to be together to be able to survive. And also, the characters in this movie don't really make that dumb of decisions. Now, there is one character that makes stupid decisions, but they actually explain why, and I think that's where the narrative really shines, because it's pretty simple, and then you realize, oh, these are dumb motivations, but then the plot comes back later and says, no, it was different, and that's really interesting. I like what they did with that, and that character really explains why they're doing that, and it really works out in the movie's favor because it's something else interesting that's injected into the plot in the middle of the movie. Now, when I say that one character makes a really dumb decision, that's not saying that everyone is scot-free from that. Now, there is one part where you can tell where characters are going to die. They walk alone off somewhere, and the tension usually in these type of scenes in horror movies dies. Luckily, the atmosphere in this is so good that you're still able to be engrossed in the film, but still, you're like, why are you walking away? What are you doing? That scene, I remember, I was like, I don't know if this was the perfect choice for this, but it works enough because the tension and atmosphere is so good, which is a really good thing because this film's simplicity and somewhat horror tropes it falls in, it's really able to build off of them with really great atmosphere and characters and a story that's interesting, which I think is really good because the outside things really help when things are a little bit weaker when it comes to narrative structure. Luckily, in most of these scenes with these characters, if it's sort of dumb with that one character I was talking about, the atmosphere is very good and still makes you a little tense and creeped out. Speaking of getting creeped out, post-editing me, show the people a xenomorph. There he is, in all of his glory. Now, in case you haven't climbed out under your rock from the last 40 years, you know what the alien in this film looks like, and I'm going to show you a still image, and when I saw still images, I didn't think it looked scary, which was one of the dumb things when I went in this movie, because I thought it wouldn't look scary. He wouldn't be scary, but he doesn't look scary in this video probably either. He is creepy though. This is due to the atmosphere. This alien is so much more scary because you don't actually know where it is. And that is the genius of what they did with Alien. That is why there's this lingering feeling of fear and dread wherever you are in this ship, because he could be anywhere. Also, something that really grinds my gears in horror movies is jump scares. To me, it's so boring and bland. Like, good job, he scared me for 2 seconds because of a loud noise that feels very lazy. But in this film, there's only one jump scare from what I remember, and it is fantastic. You'd probably be like, oh, you just said you didn't like jump scares, but that's because in this film, they do a great job of building up to it. This scene before is so well done and claustrophobic and feels earned because the fear and the dread in the scene really builds up towards it, and then, boom, freaks you out. It is so good, it doesn't come out of nowhere, and it feels like a payoff to a fantastic scene that was executed very well. This film does such a great job at feeling claustrophobic and nervous, and that feeling of dread in you, knowing that this alien could be around any corner. And that is one of the most freaky things in horror for me. And that's what I personally love about the horror genre. That feeling of not knowing what is there, to me, is always the most scary thing in a movie, and keeps you on the edge of the seat, because it's like Jaws. When you don't see it as much, it gives that fear and that sort of legend that goes along with it, so when it does show up, it's always more scary than if we just had it the entire movie. So obviously, I've gushed about this film so far. I think the atmosphere is amazing, with a simple story that moves along quickly with pretty good characters and a monster that is fantastic with great effects that still hold up since it is all practical. And the film holds up as a creepy sci-fi movie that holds its place in the horror and sci-fi genre. I want to make it clear though that I honestly have to love a film for it to get my awesome score, which makes me feel so weird that for the 3rd time in a row, I'm gonna have to give the same score, because I think that Alien is awesome. Man, if you want to do this Ridley Scott sort of binge that I've been doing with Blade Runner, then his sequel Blade Runner 2049, I know he was a producer, but still it felt like a worthwhile sequel. And Alien, man, I have been loving this sort of Ridley Scott binge. Anyway, if you like this video, leave a like and a comment if you want to talk about Alien. I am going to want to watch more of the Alien franchise. I have not seen the sequels yet, but that might be a future video. Keep your eyes out. And if you want to see my Blade Runner review and Blade Runner 2049 review, and you like other videos on my channel, you can subscribe and hang around. If you want me to review or talk about something else that's completely different and something fun, leave it in the comments. I probably know what I'm going to do next, probably another Aliens maybe review. Hopefully that, I need to watch it. Anyways, the next video when it comes out, I'll see you then. Bye.